Krista, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today. I'm really excited to dive into your business. You're someone who we met while we were actually both on maternity leave before we started in business, and we ended up in the same field, although we're doing different things. You're in staging, I'm in real estate. So can you tell us a little bit about why you got into staging and what that looked like in your very beginning phases?
Sure. I actually forgot that we met while on maternity leave. I forgot that that was our initial. I was on maternity leave, had two boys. My husband has a busy corporate job in Toronto, and I really wanted to be able to have the work balance that we all talk about. I wanted to work and make money, but I also wanted to be able to be around for the kids and not be a crazy person, essentially. And so I thought staging was a natural fit for me. I've always loved design and decorating. So I took a staging course over my maternity leave and then told my fundraising job I wasn't coming back. And at the end of my maternity leave, which was August 31st, as of September 1st, I started calling myself a stager.
That's amazing. So you had this vision, the goal, and you actually executed, which I think is where a lot of people stop. They have this idea to make this big change and it becomes really overwhelming. So how did you push through and actually start getting clients, especially starting from zero and, having little kids?
For me, the biggest thing was, and advice I give people who are looking to start is that you just set a date and you start. So again, as of September 1st, I started calling myself a stager, even though I hadn't staged a home yet. And I think you start small and you go day by day. And I was always trying to prioritize being busy enough with staging and doing something every day towards the business, and also keeping in mind the balance.
How did you get your first client?
So luckily, my next door neighbor, who we already had a relationship, is a well-known real estate agent in Burlington. So one day, I remember we were on the driveway, and I said, "Oh, I'm going to start a staging business." And he was like, "Oh, that's great! Like next time I need a stager, I'll hire you." And I'd be like, "Oh, that would be like amazing! Thank you."
Yeah.
So he gave me a couple of my very first starts, and I knew another real estate agent through a good friend of mine whose husband is a real estate agent. And kind of people gave me a chance. And I felt that those first ones were very important to execute as well as possible, because once you have a couple jobs under your belt, you can start posting those and actually using those as your example to be able to get more and to look legitimate.
Yeah.
So a couple were people I knew. And then after that, you just get the ball rolling with meeting more people and that kind of thing.
So I'm kind of hearing you leveraged those relationships and the jobs you did to market yourself and then to go and kind of put it out there and get more coming in.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing for me in that first year or two is I never said no to any opportunity. And I put myself out there and said, "Hey, if you want a stager to come speak, I'll come speak." And then when actually people were like, "Oh, yeah, you can speak," I'd be like, "Oh my gosh, what am I doing?" But those things, every time someone said, "Hey, I'm going to do this, do you want to join me?" Even if I didn't want to, I jumped at the opportunity, and I just started meeting more and more and more people, and new people connected me with their people. And it really is just the relationships. And as much as I'm an extrovert and I do love meeting people, it was at times very exhausting. And so you don't always want to go, but I think it's super important in the beginning to push yourself and get outside your comfort zone, because that's how you're going to grow and grow your business.
Yeah. And so you were doing all that and pushing yourself and not saying no and taking all the opportunities. Did you find it was hard to balance things at home too?
For sure. So with staging, you're in the same market as real estate. So when real estate is busy, staging is generally busy. So I feel there was lots of times where it was busy that I wanted to be, but I felt like in the beginning I couldn't really say no to
Mhm.
opportunities, because then, they'll find other people. So I had and still have a lot of support from my parents. My dad helps me with staging when he's not in Florida, loading and unloading. My mom would, I'd be running late, or I'd ask her to pick my kids up from daycare and school. I had both my parents really helping especially in the beginning of helping with the kids, because I'd be everywhere at once. So I did have a lot of support then and still now, except now they go to Florida for 6 months. So when they're home, I really, really appreciate and use a lot, but they're not for 6 months of the year, which I'm actually happy for them.
And now that you're out of that phase and you're kind of more established and maybe more comfortable in your patterns and your routines, do you still find yourself kind of pushing the boundary, or are you trying to set limits for the balancing of your time?
Yeah, I still try to say yes and get as much in as possible because I know, like with every business, when you're busy, you want to maximize that. But there are times where I do say no, or I do say I cannot do it this week, but I can do it here. So it's
Yeah.
usually I can't do it now. I can't do a consult tomorrow, but I can do it here. And I'm better at doing saying I can't do this, but I can do this. Whereas
Yeah.
before, if an agent called, I'd just be like, okay, I'll drop everything. I'll make it work. I'll try to be in two places at once. Like it was kind of I was kind of, just tried to say yes too much and got
Yeah.
myself caught. Whereas now I can say either no if the job doesn't feel right,
Mhm.
or I can't do it today, but I can do it here.
Yeah.
Um, and ultimately, people respect that. Like for the most part, if an agent can't work with me a little bit, like there's a flexibility on both,
Yeah.
then maybe they're not someone I want to work with, or maybe they don't have reasonable expectations either. So
Yeah. It's funny, I was talking about that today with a group of realtors. We're talking about our minimum standards and also setting up the professional relationship for success by, in the very beginning, treating it like a professional relationship. And sometimes that looks like setting boundaries, and it can be in a subtle way. So it's still very kind and very professional. But like you said, if you're willing to always just drop everything and do exactly what someone needs exactly when they need you to, you put yourself in this situation where you're putting a lot of stress on yourself, a lot of stress on your family. You might not be able to actually, serve your client, or in this case, another realtor, at the level that you want to, because you're pushing yourself, to maybe a time limit that's not actually going to work for you. And so setting these minimum standards, as I like to call them, for ourselves, especially in the beginning of the year, can be super helpful, because then we know, you know what, if someone has an unrealistic expectation, or if someone treats me a certain way, I'm okay to not work with them. I'm okay to lose that opportunity, or to say, if someone, needs to work outside of these hours, I'm going to instead suggest a different time. And by setting that up in the very beginning with someone, I feel like they actually respect you more, appreciate your time more, and it becomes easier to work together because they know that you're a professional, and then they treat
a
you like.
100%. I feel like when I shifted and had a bit more boundaries, when I wouldn't say yes, but yes, I can do that, but it needs to, I am available over here as opposed
Mhm.
to right now. I actually found I was always surprised at the beginning when they were like, oh, okay, yeah, great. Yeah, we can do that, as opposed to, no, I'm gonna find someone else. Click.
Yeah.
And I do feel like when you're busy and you can't take as much on, people also realize, oh, you're busy. That means other people are using you. That means you must be good. And there's a
Yeah.
little bit of psychology that way too, where there's times where I'm like, if they can't fit into my schedule, they can find someone else, and like not in a mean way. And again, professional, polite, just explain the timeline, and it is what it is. We all only have so much time in the day.
And so, with that in mind, do you have any tips around how do you actually manage your time? Because I feel as, especially when you're starting from the beginning and you're on your own, like you're a
Yeah.
slowpreneur, if you will, it's only you. We need to be ultra efficient with our time. And having young kids, there is still a reality that we do need to be there for them for certain things. So, like, what have you used or implemented to help you be more efficient and productive with your time?
The biggest thing for me, as silly as it sounds, is sticky notes.
Oh,
My calendar in my phone, I have all my, my staging and my de-staging and my consults and all kind of that blocked off in my phone. Then every morning, especially when I'm super busy, I'm going into my phone and prioritizing on a sticky note of what I have to get done today. And sometimes things just have to get bumped tomorrow, and just literally writing stuff out. And for me, having the visual of continually looking at that and checking off as I go throughout the day as the hours wind down to pickup time, it's helpful for me for the visualization. There's times too where stuff comes up that reprioritizes your day, and you
Yeah.
just have to figure out, when I have something to do that I have to get done for the next day, it's like, okay, this is my priority, all the other stuff will have to wait. I find with the agent and the homeowner is huge too. Like, I don't want to under over promise and under deliver. So even yesterday I had a couple consults, and I was really honest at the end and said, I'm going to, get you the report and get you the estimate, for sure, end a week early next week, because I know the next couple days, like, I'm not going to get to it. So setting up those expectations ahead of time and letting everybody else know kind of where you're at,
Yeah.
super important. But I think writing stuff down and not my brain to remember everything, to remember all the kids' appointments and all the stuff and all the stuff that, everything is changing all the time in real estate. Homeowners' times change, and so not relying on my brain and actually having like systems of writing stuff down is helpful.
When we worked together before, in a professional relationship, you being a stager, I found your communication with me was amazing and with the clients. And I really appreciated that because my clients like fell in love with you too, because you have a great approach of how you're, delivering the information to somebody, because sometimes that can be a sensitive topic when discussing maybe changes that need to happen in someone's home or how we're going to highlight the home in the best way. And it's not always a comfortable conversation, but you have a really good way of handling that, and I'm thinking that's probably helped you to continue to get repeat business from realtors you work with. So, is that something you knew coming into this business, or did you have to work on that? How did you kind of develop having this communication style between the agents and the clients?
Well, thank you. That's very nice. I feel it's important to go in with the agents and the homeowner and be really honest up front about what my role is. So my role as a stager is to give advice and recommendations, to sell your home as quickly as possible for the most amount of money. So when I kind of put out there first, like, this is about the homeowner, it's all about them, it's all about their home. I'm just here to help as part of the agent's team.
Mhm.
Um, and I always do say to agent or homeowners as well that I'm going to give you a list of recommendations, and guess what? It's your home, so you get to decide what you want to execute, what you're comfortable with, and what you don't want to. So always putting it back, and they have the power and control, I think is really helpful for people, because it makes them feel like I'm not coming in some, authority that I think everything I say is the right thing, because it's just my advice and recommendations. And I find, most of the time people do everything on the list. But again, it's that relationship. It's going through every room, and I try to use humor. I read people. I try to figure out where they're at, what works, what doesn't. I explain why I'm recommending things. The explanation of the why is super important in staging, because then understanding why I'm asking them to do a certain thing, and why I'm saying, okay, this is what buyers are looking at.
Yeah.
This is what buyers are looking for. So all that kind of stuff that I've learned, honestly, over the years, like in 4 years of learning how to communicate with all the different homeowners. There's downsizers, there's people who are going to new homes. There's different people. It's stressful. It's not stressful. It's exciting. It's a divorce. It's a death. It's,
Mm.
it's a lot. And to be honest, that's one of the most interesting things about staging, because staging in itself is, it's similar, if you
Hmm.
will. There's a bit of a formula. It's
Yeah.
the talking with people and getting them kind of on your side and thinking about their house in a different way and dealing with different people all the time. And the dynamics is the most interesting part, I would say. And getting them to like you and trust you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge, and I think that's what works in your benefit and allows you to have that kind of repeat business from your core group of realtors, because they know that they can bring you in, that they can trust you, that you're going to deliver a great result, but also that their clients are going to be comfortable.
Totally. And actually, that's what I always say when new agents call me who've never used me before and we're having that initial conversation. I just say to them, I think a huge part of my job is how I deal with your clients. They're your clients. I am an extension of your team for that period of time. So I always want to put people at ease that I'm going to go in and be really kind. I'm going to be professional, but I'm also going to be really kind, and I have empathy for where they're at with the move, because there's no question that moving is stressful, even if it's exciting. And coming in and making changes, and a stranger coming in and asking you to make changes to your home is stressful. So I think really communicating your empathy
Yeah.
as well is super important, and telling that to the agent as well. I have a lot of agents who will come to the consults the first time they meet me and watch me do the consult and the interaction, and then the second time I go and do a consult, they're like, oh no, I don't need to be there, you go. So it's kind of nice.
Yeah.
It's that trust, like they don't need to be there with me at the house.
Yeah, I love that. And so to wrap it up, just one last question for you would be, what is the one piece of advice you would give to someone who's maybe in your situation that you were in 4 years ago, who's just starting out and wants to start their business? I know it's hard, but what's one thing you would say to them?
I think the biggest thing is to just start. To don't worry about having your ducks in a row. Don't worry about, oh, my website has to be done. I have to have my business cards. I have to, so many people I hear have this to-do list that they will start once this happens. And I think you just need to start, and you start slow. And I think most businesses, you are building the airplane while you're flying it.
Yeah.
And for the first couple of years, you'll feel like that. Like I'm going and panic buying inventory, staging, and I'm building everything. I'm learning. And I think you just have to have confidence in yourself that you have an idea, execute it. If it doesn't work, you start again. But if you don't start, you'll never know.
That's such good advice, and that's where so many people stop. They just
Yeah.
don't they have the idea and they don't start and they don't execute on it, and you're just such a good example of someone who did and just went all in with it, and then it paid off because now you have a great business from it.
Yeah. And you're super confident at the beginning. Everybody has imposter syndrome. So I
Yeah.
feel like I was not confident at the beginning. I thought I'm good at design and stuff, but I wasn't confident in my skill. It's experience that makes you confident. It's the homeowner and the realtor loving your work over and over again that makes you
Mhm.
confident. It's the beginning, nobody's confident.
Yeah,
Everyone's just trying to figure it out, but you have to push yourself. It's just something you have to believe in yourself, and you have to push yourself.
I love that. Thank you so much, Krista, for your time today, and I think we'll have to do a part 2 at some point.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.